Welcome back to Conservative Conversations. I am your host, Reid.
And I'm Frank.
Today we're going to be doing a rundown of some recent news headlines before the holidays. So let's get started. But before we do, I'd like to remind you to follow on your favorite podcast platform and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Alright, so to get started, we're going to talk about Donald Trump's recent comments and proposals that we buy Greenland and take control of the Panama Canal again. Because if people aren't too familiar with the history, it was the United States who
built it.
Built it.
Lots of men died.
Oh yeah, it was a big thing back then. And then it was in the, I think it was Ford or Carter. It was Carter who...
Yeah, it was Carter.
Carter who ended the agreement for the United States to have control, and I think it officially ended in 1999.
And I think he sold it back to him for like $1 or something absolutely preposterous like that.
Uh-huh.
And anyway, I mean, I could see some of the strategic reasons why we might want to take control of the Panama Canal back.
Right.
You know, with some of these issues that we've seen through COVID and with the shipping and supply line issues and that ship being stuck in the canal forever. Was that the Panama Canal?
No, that was over in like the Middle East area.
Oh, I see. Well, anyway, though, I mean, I could see how that matters or might matter to our strategic, you know what I mean, national defense and whatever. But this Greenland thing, I don't understand. I mean, I've heard him talk about it before, but he says that is vital to our national security. And I don't really see how. I mean, do you know what he's talking about when it comes to that?
Not specifically, but my first two guesses: one, maybe there's oil there, some kind of resource, or two, its location to like.
See, that's what I would think.
Yeah,
like the airspace and
the Arctic. It's in like the Arctic Circle, I think.
Yeah,
and
its proximity to
like Russia.
Europe,
it's probably
and
not
Russia.
too far away.
Yeah.
So that'd be my guess. Maybe to be able to put like some kind of base there to have a quick reaction to whatever potential threats there might be over closer to that area or something.
It's an interesting idea. I mean, I've looked at things on Greenland before, and if it became a territory or something like that, a state, I would definitely be willing to go visit, immediately.
Yeah, me too. That'd be pretty cool.
I think it'd be cool as heck.
Right? Yeah, I'm not really sure what all I really think about those. I mean,
he's talked about it before.
Yeah, especially
I'll give him
the Greenland one.
I don't get where it comes from, though. I mean,
yeah, I know one of the things I heard him talk about as far as the Panama Canal goes is like it's part of his continuing agenda of bad trade deals. They're like charging us an arm and a leg to send ships through, and supposedly they're not charging other countries as much.
Plus, it makes sense. I know a lot of people who are upset or, were upset over the Panama Canal thing and how it's just sort of like insulting to sell it back to them for $1 after we built it, and so many men lost their lives building that thing. And it's just almost a disgrace, really. Right. And I'm sure that's how Trump would talk about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, one thing I have heard somewhat recently about the Panama, goodness, the canal, there we go, just that, is that, our ships are getting too big for it. Like, we keep building bigger and bigger ships, and eventually they're gonna have to, like, dig out more and find a way to, like,
expand it.
Yeah, expand it and dam it up more so larger ships can float through it. And that's going to be a whole big deal.
Mm-hmm. Great that it should come back into our possession again so we can spend a bunch of money on it.
Right. Yeah. I guess what's the next topic? You had quite a few quick headlines.
I do. I have a bunch of just like headlines.
Sure,
really.
we'll go ahead and bop through those.
One that I think is interesting and is topical is that Biden has just pardoned 37 death row inmates. And some of the headlines that are out there claim that he has pardoned 37 of the worst and that kind of thing, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess it just is in line with his sort of philosophy that he's brought to the federal government.
Yeah.
And he put a moratorium on the death penalty.
Yeah, the federal death penalty.
Yeah, the federal death penalty. And he doesn't want, since Trump ran on it in his campaign, he mentioned bringing back the federal death penalty.
Mm-hmm.
This is just sort of like one of the last things that Biden can do. And so he has pardoned 37 out of 40 that he could have pardoned, I guess. He pardoned 37 of them, and not so far as like to say that they're not guilty and they're let go from prison and all this, but they're just pardoned from the possibility of the death penalty.
Right.
So they now have life sentences without the possibility of parole, instead of possible death being on the table, you know? So, I mean, I guess in a sense it's like big deal.
Yeah, that's sort of how I feel about it in a way.
But I do think it's sad, you know, as we've talked about it before, the strain on the taxpayer and that, you know, if these are, like some of the headlines claim, the worst of the worst offenders, then you know that I'm all about just whatever, put lights out. I mean,
yeah.
Come on, cry me a river. Let's save the dollar.
Right.
And be done with it.
Yeah.
But whatever, it's sort of a last, you know, dying groan from an very old man. So,
and some of the biggest criticism, certainly from those on the right, is that how hypocritical it seems for him. He's, you know, his administration has been so pro-abortion, but at the same time, you know, he's gonna pardon these death penalties. So, but
well, that's something Republicans and Democrats never agree on.
Right.
You know, they want to kill babies, and we want to kill
baby killers.
Yeah.
Like.
And they think that there's an equivalency there.
And by baby killers, and we don't mean those who do have abortions. We mean actual, like, criminal...
mean men who kill.
Yes.
And so it's sort of... I mean, I went along with you because I know what you meant, but...
Right. I just want to clarify for any listeners.
Yeah, it'd be simpler to say murderers, people who kill.
Yeah. Right.
You know, we want to kill people who kill.
Yeah.
And they have a problem with that, whereas we don't. They see an equivalency. Well, you know, they whatever between the unborn, but see, the unborn never done anything wrong. They could not be guilty of any. They are sin free.
Right.
You know, so it's silly. It's a silly false equivalency.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Right. Yep. I know that, like, kind of like what you said. That's sort of a big deal story to me.
Well, it is to some people.
Right. I mean, again, I don't mean big deal as in the story is a big deal, a sarcastically big deal. Like,
yeah.
I
just think it's funny the way, you know, he's trying to do all these last-ditch things to take stuff away from Trump.
Right. Yep.
But whatever. I doubt Trump's going to really lose any sleep because he can't murder these 37 guys. You know what I'm saying? I don't think it's like that for him.
Right. Yeah.
And we don't see it that way. See, I'm falling into this trap that we do with the language, right? But I doubt for him it's just like, you know, like he's bloodthirsty for these 37 people.
Right.
It's going to be like, oh, big deal. All right, well.
Seems
like he left us 3. Let's go ahead and do the 3 we can do and then just move on.
Yep. And you got another one?
Well, the next is the spending. That's the next thing.
Good. Okay.
The spending, they did finally get a short-term package pushed through. But there's been a lot of pushback on that. Not just the fact that they had to go back to the drawing board a couple times because of Elon Musk's tweets and Vivek Ramaswamy's dealings and influence, but there's also been some of the usual suspects like Rand Paul, love him or hate him, who have been standing up there saying, this spending is out of control and we're about to be in charge and we can't just go business as usual and, we need to be good stewards of the money and that kind of thing. So there have been some interesting fights, and one in particular that I had wanted to highlight and is going to be linked is John Kennedy, one of my other favorite senators, was up pushing for the National Flood Insurance Program to be renewed and refunded. So it was John Kennedy pushing for this.
Right.
He wants it done. He's a Louisiana guy. I'm sure they deal a lot with flooding down there.
Yep.
And Rand Paul was up pointing out some of the flaws or potential flaws in the program and how it can be misused and misappropriated and misspent and blah, blah, blah. And it was just an interesting fight to see between two very smart guys.
Right. On the same side of the aisle.
Yes, on the same side of the aisle. But that's why I said that comment a second ago, love him or hate him.
Right.
Because sometimes, you have this where, I've talked about it before, and everybody has their issues, but I think it's kind of hard once we get in a majority to allow people like Rand Paul, even though I love him, to just block us.
Right, yeah.
Because, okay, yes, we need to be good stewards and stuff, but this is only going to last so long and we need to get stuff done. Don't stand in the way, Rand, And it's sort of in his tendency to do that, though. Yeah. He's more of a nuisance to Republicans than he is to Democrats, in a manner of speaking. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, right. Yeah, I get that, because it's sort of a same or a similar situation on the House side, because you got this, I don't want to say necessarily small, but a group of Republicans in the House that hardly ever want to vote on big spending bills, which, generally speaking, I'm opposed to also. But usually when these types of fights come up, one of the things I get tired of hearing about, especially as of late, is everybody gives Mike Johnson a whole bunch of crap. Like, he's the only guy making the bill.
Right.
And he gets in trouble for all the crap that's in it.
Well, there was some funny business about the way this was presented.
Right. Yeah, and I get that too. But like last year, or when they got rid of McCarthy and put Johnson in, and then recently there have been some rumblings that they might try to do it again with Mike Johnson.
I sort of hope they do.
I don't really, because I don't have a problem with them, because I don't see who on the Republican side is going to do a whole lot of a better job in his situation. Luckily, it's about to be different, because currently he has to deal with a very slim Republican majority,
right,
and a whole bunch of Republicans that don't want to vote on a bunch of spending. And then he still has to deal with the Democrats in the House. And then he still has to deal with the Democrats over in the Senate and the White House. So I don't really give too much blame to Mike Johnson, because I think he's pretty good. He's decently conservative, especially as when he was just a regular congressman.
I don't think he's effective as speaker.
I don't think he has been that effective. I think he's been doing a good enough job for the situation that he's in. That's why I keep kind of pointing that out.
I get that you keep pointing that out, but I think that's one of the biggest criticisms is I don't think McCarthy should have been pushed out the way he was.
Oh,
and I think it's sort of strange to sit here and argue that, but I also believe it in a way. I
Right.
don't think we'd be in as much of a pickle. Okay, because see, it all sounds so funny to say, but I don't think we'd be in the same situation that we're in now
Right.
had things not gone the way they went. You know what I mean? So I get that you sort of are forced to keep saying that, you know,
Right.
but I just don't like the flavor of ice cream I'm being served. And that's all that I'm really saying is,
Right.
yeah, okay, it's Mike Johnson, and I don't really have anything against him, but I don't really like this flavor either.
Right.
I wouldn't mind a different flavor. I don't know
suppose,
what
yeah.
the answer is, but
Right. Yeah. I mean, I feel like there's always stuff that I would say that I wish was better.
I think McCarthy was a much better figurehead. You know, more natural leader, more moving. He talked, you know, his words had more weight, I think, than Johnson. And I'm not trying to slight him because
Right.
I like him too, but I just don't think he's the right man for these times. You know?
Yeah. That's interesting. I wouldn't necessarily. I mean, I kind of agree that in a way, but also don't necessarily agree with it because I can't pick who would be too much better. Like
Well, let me ask you
like
this.
Jim Jordan's name has been floated around, and
I don't like it.
I mean, I like Jim Jordan, but I still don't think he would fare much better than Mike Johnson because it's still the same.
Well, let me ask you a question in light of
yeah, go ahead.
some of what we've seen. I mean, because I know we're getting a little off the rails,
Right,
and
yeah.
and we really are about to be off the rails with this question. You'll see that, but I want to remind you before I ask it that we're coming from someplace. You know that it does link back to something. We're talking about this spending, and we're talking about.
Right.
I mean, what did we see? We saw Elon Musk send out a tweet at like 4:00 in the morning that totally shook up the House. Supposedly, everybody was just going to vote for this 16,000 page document or whatever. I might have the number wrong, but you know, it was some ungodly big bill.
Right.
And he sends out one tweet, and everybody's quaking in their boots and rethinking how they're going to vote. Okay. Well, do you know, it's been thrown out there. We're not the first to cover it here, but anybody can be Speaker of the House.
Yeah.
So what do you think about that? Because that's all that I'm saying is I'd like to see somebody effective do it. So imagine Elon Musk with one tweet can have everybody recasting their votes. What if it was somebody like an Elon Musk that they put there just to come in and whip the votes one way or the other and say, we're not going to have funny business this time, guys. Sit down and do it. You know?
Yeah. I think it would certainly be interesting to see an outsider be the speaker, somebody who's not already a congressperson or, you know, was before they took the gavel.
Then it might even take some of the idiocracy out of the politics because somebody like Johnson could just vote, you know, and they don't have to be in the limelight the way that, you know, somebody else like a Vivek Ramaswamy. I've heard a lot of input on this, and I think Vivek might be the man of the hour.
Yeah, I wouldn't really be opposed to that. I think that'd be interesting.
Then he could be the one, you know, giving all the PR,
right,
standing in front of the cameras. The Congress people can do what Congress people need to do and take some of stay out of the limelight so much and just do their, you know, I don't want to be be too terse, but they can do their jobs and just sit there nose to the grindstone and not have to do so much of this PR, public relations stuff.
Yeah. Well, another interesting aspect would be since Vivek, if we're just using him as an example.
Sure.
Or,
but I do think he might be the man of the hour.
Right.
Too.
Well, he since he's one of the Doge brothers.
Right.
And the House has made their own Doge caucus in, you know, conjunction and support with this. I don't know what you call it. It's not an agency. This advisory board. I think it'd be interesting to be able to see them work together in that way, since
Well,
that's
plus
part
I
of
think there's a lot more to it, like on the public side too.
right.
Because there's, he ran. He ran in the public eye. He
Yeah.
was a popular figure.
Yeah.
He was a Trump-esque
Right.
figure. He fits right in with this administration and this cabinet.
Yeah.
I believe he's part of it in some regard, at least advisory or
Right.
whatever. But I almost feel like it would be perfect. Like the stars are aligning for that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I would sort of love it. I mean, not to just take it away from Johnson, but I think it could do a lot of good.
Yeah. I think it'd be very interesting and to see if that. Well, it'd be interesting if it were to happen.
Something like it.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't have to be Vivek. I mean, I'm not pushing for Vivek.
Sure.
I know Elon stays so busy that it'd be sort of preposterous to
right.
lock him into a congressional schedule.
Right. Yep. That's definitely interesting.
But you had Vivek almost begging for it, in a manner of speaking. There's been talk he'll run here in Ohio for governor or something like that. So if he wants a seat in the public eye, give him one. That's what I say. Give him one.
Right. Well, I figure we'll pick one of the other things I had as our next topic real quick, is that RFK Jr., who has been picked for Trump's nominee to be head of Health and Human Services, has proposed that we ban pharmaceutical ads on TV and probably radio also, I would guess, here in the United States, because we, along with New Zealand, are like the only two Western countries that allow it. A lot of countries in Europe, or pretty much all of them, they don't allow pharmaceutical companies to advertise their medicines, at least for the most part. I'm not super familiar with the laws over there, but anyway, you and I have both agreed on this particular topic for quite a long time.
Well, I've been seeing this for years,
Yeah.
and it's not like an ego thing for me, but I do want to say that I realized when I was young that there is an ethical flaw in advertising for these drugs, because it literally makes no sense. It tells you in the ads, go ask your doctor. Well, okay. Assuming that my doctor's supposed to know, he's the only one that can prescribe the drugs. He's supposed to be more educated on this than I am. Why would I even have to inquire? Do you see the loop, the logical fallacy here?
Yeah.
Because if the doctor's up to date on what drugs are available, and
Right,
I'm
right.
a candidate for these new and improved and what are cutting edge drugs, then the doctor would be able to say, oh, let's put you on drug Y.
Right.
Let's put you on drug Z that just came out. Let's try this. The idea that you would have to go ask, hey, I saw an advertisement for drug Y. To me, I mean, am I cuckoo? That's what I went around and interviewed some of my family members when I was young. And I remember I have family members who are very educated people. And I remember asking them, why on earth are these drug companies allowed to advertise? And they told me, well, they're companies just like any other company.
Yeah.
Why aren't they allowed? Why wouldn't they? And I just remember being baffled by that. What kind of an answer is that?
Yeah, kind of along with what you're saying, if you got a doctor who knows his stuff, they should know what you need when you go to visit them. You shouldn't have to be asking, oh, doctor, can I try this? Because it sounds like something I might need, or whatever.
Right.
But yeah, a doctor should definitely know their stuff. They should know what is currently available. They should know you as a patient. They should get to know you and be able to recommend what they think is best, instead of you, in a way, suggesting to the doctor what they might need to recommend to you.
Well, and I'll just say, because this is something that to me is glaringly simple.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I just think it's so simple that I don't know what is wrong with our culture. I don't know what's wrong with people's ability to think for themselves or think correctly. But there's been another bit that I've wanted to do for years, and I hope someday I'm able to create this bit. But I am going to go ahead and share it anyway. I've spoken about it before, but, I love to write, and part of our Wiki Wacky radio show, which I would love for you guys to go check out, is sort of an outlet for our creative side and that kind of thing. And part of me used to want to be able to write skits for like Mad TV or SNL, and just the total craziness that I see when it comes to drug companies and their ability to advertise. Year after year after year, I've thought that this is so preposterous for so much of my life that there's a skit I've always wanted to do where a guy goes into his doctor and he goes, "Hey doc, I'm here for my annual checkup," happens once a year. "It's been a long year, and in the year since I have seen you last, I've been told to ask about," and he pulls out like a scroll out of his pocket that just goes on and on, drops to the floor and just goes on and on and on.
Uh-huh.
"I've been asked to ask you, do I qualify for Xeljanz, for, I don't want to name too many specific drugs. I don't even know how many I can name, but think of how often we see these ads day in, day out. Depending on what channel you watch, what time of day you're watching, you might see 12 in an hour. So, just imagine that. Imagine how many times you're told in a year to ask your doctor. So I've just always thought that would be such a funny bit and true, very on the nose, because you've been told over the course of a year probably 1 million times to ask your doctor about 600 drugs.
Right. Yep. But yeah, hopefully RFK will get his appointment. From what I heard, he had fairly positive reception while he was talking to Congress out on the Hill. And I guess that will move quickly into our last bit of headlines that you have.
Yeah, I just do some quick ones. A Georgia court disqualified Fonnie Willis. So I guess I just take it that one's pretty much dead.
Yeah, that's the sentiment I've been hearing. That case in Georgia is basically over. It's not officially over, but it's near it.
I know people keep holding on to this hope. People like Joy Reid, who I'm going to hit on here in a minute, keep holding on to this hope that somebody else will pick up the case. But give me a break. The man's about to be sitting.
Right. Yeah.
And so you're waiting 4 years? Give me a break.
Right. Because even after that, what would be the point after that 4 years? He's not coming back to office, so what you got to stop him for?
It's just preposterous, the whole thing. So, but I love the ruling.
Yep, yep, exactly. Me
so
too.
I wanted to throw that out there. It's because I mentioned Joy Reid, I'll roll into that next. And I see it as encouraging, not just because we are small fry, podcaster, news-centered people, but as a culture, we've been saying for quite a while that the culture needs to turn. Something's got to change. We can't have these he-she's on the Bud Light cans. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And luckily, there's been a lot of pushback on that kinds of stuff. And we're seeing corrections all over the place. And one is over at MSNBC. Not only is the channel up for sale,
right,
but they're having to make some budget adjustments big time while they're still trying to keep themselves afloat as what they are.
Right.
And Joy Reid, who I just mentioned, she catches a lot of flack because she's sort of the trope of like the angry black woman. And I know a lot of people see that as racist, but I'm telling you guys, even the ones who think that that was a racist comment that I just made, she plays right into it. And she knows what she's doing. She's not a dumb person. And when I say it's a trope, that's what it is. She's playing right into it. She's a character type actress. And I just love, she's being hit with, she has to take a pay cut or be fired. Now, she's not the only one.
Right.
Lots of them are being hit with the same offer. But she usually just makes headlines for squawking.
Right.
Like the teacher from Jimmy Neutron about stuff. Just all kinds of stuff, random stuff. And I'm glad. I'll just say that. I'm glad to think that she's got to be knocked down a peg.
Right. I mean, it might force her to, change how she does her show a little bit.
I don't think it will because she gets paid well to do what she does.
True. Good point.
She's just like I said, a typecast actress. But
right. Yeah. But yeah, it is good to see a little bit of a shakeup in some of those.
Yeah, a little
media.
course correction for the industry.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That's how I'd see it. Like you see it in the market, right? Sometimes the stocks get corrected. Well, I think that's what we're seeing. The stock price of MSNBC and the price of their anchors being corrected a little bit.
Right. Well, good old Isaac Newton's law.
What goes up
must come down. It applies to everything.
Yeah.
Sure does.
Well, the last thing that I really have, I don't know if you had anything else you wanted to pepper in, but the last thing that I really had was that, that's made some pretty big headlines here recently, is that AOC lost her bid. She was trying to go for the House Oversight Committee to be the, what do they call it, the minority leader?
The ranking member?
The ranking member, yeah, on that committee. Yeah. But she lost to some 74-year-old guy who has esophageal cancer. And a lot of progressives are very upset.
Yeah.
But I think also you see a lot of people on our side, not just to be devil's advocate, but there's a movement on our side too. It sort of is just a general feeling that
all these old people gotta go.
we don't want all these old people in power so much anymore.
Right.
So that whole saga of seeing her try for a leadership position and be slapped down a rabbit hole has been pretty interesting to watch. And it's caught a lot of headlines.
I'm sure a lot of reasonable conservatives and Republicans can sympathize with that. Because like you said, we've sort of been calling for the same thing. Like, with Mitch McConnell, who's finally stepping out of leadership. There's plenty of other names that we've talked about in the past. It'd be great to see, good thing Chuck Schumer's not going to be the majority leader soon, but I imagine he'll still be the minority leader in the Senate. And be nice to see somebody else for the Democrats be the minority leader.
Right.
So, yeah, I kind of feel for AOC in that kind of situation.
Why did you?
But I believe that is all we have for today's episode. And before we go, I'd be amiss if we didn't point out that if you're listening to this episode on the day it comes out, it is Christmas Day. So we do wish you a very happy Christmas, very Merry Christmas. And we hope you have been enjoying the holidays with your family. And if you enjoyed today's great conversations, please go follow us on your favorite podcast platform, Apple, Stitcher, Spotify, and many more. And you can also go subscribe to our YouTube channel. Just search at Conservative Conversations 92. And also, go check out our Wiki Wacky radio show today, because we have a Christmas special episode out where we're talking all about alternative Christmas songs. And you can also find a playlist to go along with it to listen to while you're doing your last-minute Christmas cooking.
That's right. And as you do so, we hope you might encourage them to check us out and to become paid subscribers like you are, so that they have access to the same bonus and exclusive content that you have access to. And as always, we thank you for listening.